That reliance, you were talking about it before we went on air. Basically, England needed their star guys to turn up and then everyone to back them up, which is exactly what's happened with Australia and what isn't happening for us.
Yeah, but I suppose they've got, as Colo outlined there, they've got good conditions tomorrow. And I think what they were, obviously, the biggest issue in that first test match was being bowled out for 174. The difference now is you've got batting conditions in your favour. You've got, as good as Richardson and Neser are, you've got a weakened attack against you as well. And also factor in that I'd say that while the batters didn't cover themselves totally in glory in the last test, everyone, perhaps Stokes aside, to come has had time in the middle. Pope and Butler had that partnership in the first innings. Obviously, Root and Milan as well. So they're, it's still early on. They're in a situation where they're in control of their own destiny to a point. They don't necessarily need to chase the runs. They just, as I said before, take the overs as they come. Matt Pryor on the coverage just before us was talking about how he and Ian Bell, whenever they were in that situation, they would take it in 5-over increments, basically. And given what we've seen of the pitch so far, I don't see anything particularly devilish in there. There have been one or two that have kept low or popped a bit, straighter. But by and large, I think they should fancy themselves to go out there and, as Kate said, pick a few scores, get a bit greedy, and and think for a moment about your own legacy, I suppose.
And also be a bit patient as well. Like Labuschagne had the slowest 100 he's ever had in his career. Warner's the third slowest 50 he's had. With time, runs will come, kind of thing. And to put the pressure back on the Australians, I think it may just take a couple of sessions where you don't score many runs, but you don't lose any wickets.
Yeah, especially if you think about those people who are to come if they are set, if Stokes is set, Pope's set, Butler set, they do end up scoring quickly. They wouldn't necessarily need to go at fours, but 2.5 threes would be, I suppose, an improvement on what we've seen so far. Barring obviously Australia's tail, who went pretty slap happy at the end.
We love a wag.
I'm going to throw to Adam again, because normally I'd say, look, Cummins out, Hazlewood out, great, positives. Jai Richardson and Michael Neser coming in, inexperienced. But Adam Collins, I'm guessing, given that you are the one-man Michael Neser train, you're probably going to disagree with me that there's anything to capitalise on there for England.
I mean, they're both high-quality bowlers. Australia's strength over a long stretch of time has been the depth of quicks they can draw upon. Lose a soldier, replace a soldier, that kind of mentality that Australia can implement a strategy at the last minute where Neser comes in and where Richardson, who takes his first-class wickets at 21. I mean, his first test match a couple of years ago was with the pink ball at the Gabba, and he looked ready-made to play 100 test. I mean, this is a very good problem for Australia to have, that they lose a player and can bring in someone like Jai Richardson, who looked the part immediately tonight. But I don't think England can be daunted by this. Look, they've got to break it down into smaller tasks than that. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And look, this is no one's ever taken a day-night test match at Adelaide to the 5th day. So first things first, they've got to get to lunch tomorrow. They've got to find a way for Root and Milan to build a meaningful partnership. Ben Stokes is in the series, I felt, today. That delivery he bowled to Cameron Green was an absolute delight. Angling in towards middle and legs, straightening, hitting the top of off. And sure, you can ask the question as to whether he should have bowled fuller earlier, whether they should have exclusively almost used him as a short-pitched option yesterday and today. And we can go round the houses on that. But the reality is that Stokes is in the series now with the ball. And if that can translate to him batting for a number of hours tomorrow, there is that psychological barrier with Australia and Ben Stokes for well-documented reasons. I mean, they've probably spent the last year and a half in therapy about what happened at Leeds in 2019. So on that basis, they need to initially get through a session, then bat for a day, and then start thinking about how they can build into the test. That they can't win this tomorrow, but they might be able to get to a situation where they might not lose it. And that is going to take some doing, because, as I've said before, after dark, the test match tends to speed up here. But initially, at least, there'll be good conditions tomorrow to bat in. And Milan's looking good. I mentioned that before.
Kate, England talk a lot about their ability to bounce back. How do they eat this elephant one bite at a time?
I've never heard that before. We spoke about it, but you've just literally got to take it a session at a time and break that session down as well. So we always talk about the hours. Obviously, when you get your drinks break, it's an hour into play. So you've got natural breaks in play anyway. But Milan and Root, for me, have to bat majority of the day tomorrow. And like Vish said, try and take some time and some overs out of the game. and put their hand up as well and take some responsibility, because the bowlers have done a lot of hard work for the batters in the last 150 overs. So it's now time to repay that. And I think opening batters know exactly when they've let the team down and got out early. But yeah, Root and Milan for me, they've got to be batting at the end of the day tomorrow.
Fish, I don't want to tempt fate, but what's a perfect day for you? The same?
I suppose, yeah, a perfect day from England's perspective is, we know they're going to lose wickets tomorrow. There's no such thing as a perfect day in Test cricket, least of all for England. But I think if you've got one of those two batting into that third session, bear in mind what we've seen so far is that when people come in when it's dark, it's incredibly tough. And without wanting to wish this onto England at all, there's a very realistic possibility that they do the job for the first two sessions, and when it comes to that third session, they lose a wicket and there's a little bit of a collapse. Now, we've seen it before with England teams in the past when they've been batting in daylight, so who knows how they do at night. But Nisa will be an interesting one, actually. I don't know if Adam's still with us, but there was a great thing during the 2019 Ashes when England struggled so much getting Steve Smith out, but he was getting out regularly in the net to Michael Nisa, and he seemed to be the only one in the UK who had his number. So it'd be fascinating to see how Nisa does when he gets into a bit of a groove tomorrow.